641 News Radio 102.9 KARN. First News, Kevin Miller, joined by Senator Tom Cotton. Good morning, Senator. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, Kevin. Good to be back on with you.
Glad you're here. Where you been? You've been kind of hiding out on me. You've been busy or something, right?
It's been a busy month. The schedules in Washington are always a little bit more predictable than in Arkansas when I'm traveling around the state from sunrise to sunset. I can't say that it's great to be back in Washington, but it certainly was good to be home during the month of August.
I understand. I know you probably feel like I do. Sometimes you need a clone, and there's technology's not there, I guess. All right, Senator, I want to talk about what happened with President Trump. In fact, that was just the news report that Bob Constantini was talking about. That meeting with the Taliban, Camp David, that was canceled. It didn't come together, obviously, and I want to get your take on that whole situation.
Kevin, I haven't had a chance to speak with the president directly about it, but I know that his envoy, Zalmay Khalilzad, has been negotiating for a couple of years now with the Taliban's representatives in Qatar, and they thought they had an agreement in principle in early September, but the Taliban, not exactly the most trustworthy negotiating partners, were reneging on some of their commitments. At the same time, they were continuing to make car bomb attacks in Kabul and other major cities across Afghanistan. I think the president was hoping to try to have a face-to-face conversation to seal the agreement the way past presidents have done with other adversaries, but he wasn't willing to make concessions to the Taliban if the Taliban wasn't willing to uphold their end of the bargain. So I think he made the right decision in not going forward with those negotiations.
Senator, we talked, once before, and I think this is a good time to bring it up about your beginnings in the military. They really began after 9/11, didn't they?
They did, and the Taliban, in concert with al-Qaeda, was responsible for those attacks.
Right.
And we've been fighting against them in one way or another for 18 years. That's why I say the Taliban is an inherently untrustworthy adversary. Now, most adversaries are untrustworthy, and if we want to ultimately try to have some kind of peace agreement in Afghanistan and diminish our troop presence there, we have to negotiate with our adversaries. But I think that's best left to Zalmay Khalilzad in Qatar and Mike Pompeo when it's elevated from Zal's level. But the most important steps to be taken are steps by the Taliban to uphold the commitments that they made in principle late last month.
Yeah, there's not a lot of good things that you can say about the Taliban, at least from our perspective here. They're the killer of Americans. They're terrorists. And like you said, 9/11, partially responsible for what happened there. As somebody who joined the military, went to war for our country, who's been a part of that, finding out that meeting was going to happen on U.S. soil, did that bother you at all?
Not the approach that I would have taken, Kevin. But as I said, you ultimately do have to negotiate with your adversaries if you want to reach any kind of peace agreement in Afghanistan. Now, it's always better to have defeated or at least severely weakened adversaries. And although the Taliban has been on the initiative some in Afghanistan, the United States has been on even greater initiative. As the Secretary of State said on Sunday morning on the TV shows, we've killed over 1,000 Taliban in recent weeks in Afghanistan. So it's not as if we've taken the pressure off the Taliban. But I think negotiations right now are, if they're going to proceed at all, and the president has said for the time being they're called off, are best left to his envoys and best left to foreign soil in the Middle East.
Senator Tom Cotton, the Chinese tariffs, another sit-down coming very soon with the Chinese. Where are we with that situation?
Well, China is hurting a lot more than the United States is hurting on those in this economic controversy that we have, Kevin, and that's in part because China has been getting away with one-sided economic warfare for 30 years. The president didn't start a trade war with China. The president just joined the war that China has been waging against our farmers and ranchers and foresters and manufacturers. I hope that we get an agreement, but it really is up to the Chinese at this point, Kevin. I mean, Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, had reached an agreement in principle back in May, but as Chinese leaders have often done with the United States for the last 30 years, he reneged on his commitments, and the president shut that down. So I hope that we can get an agreement, but the Chinese have to be willing to live up to the commitments that they have made if we're going to have any kind of trade agreement with China.
Senator Tom Cotton here at KARN. Senator, ABC News poll coming out showing a little bit of good news for the president, but also one of the things that was a negative there was his handling of the economy, and in particular what's going on with China. Does that affect him in the election if he can't work something out, and does that affect Republicans as they look at 2020?
I haven't seen the poll, Kevin, and I don't tend to pay that much attention to polls, especially this far from the election. Obviously, the president's stewardship of the economy so far has been pretty good. I mean, we got record high employment in Arkansas and all across the country, and a lot of that prosperity is going to the benefit of hardworking Arkansans who have seen pay raises for a long time and started to see them. We want to continue that momentum. We got some ideas to making sure the economy remains strong. Obviously, a trade agreement, not just with China, but ratifying the Mexico-Canada agreement that the president struck earlier this year would be a very big boost to our economies. That's why I hope the Democrats in the House will take up that trade agreement this fall and pass it.
I've got like 10 more things I want to ask you, and there's just not time. I know you're busy also, and so we'll talk again very soon. Senator Tom Cotton, thanks for being on.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right.